All right, let's jump right in. We're doing a deep dive on pets today.
Pets, okay.
But here's the twist. We're using an IELTS podcast as our source material.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you might be thinking, hold on, what does a language test have to do with furry friends?
Yeah, I can see that.
But trust me on this podcast goes way deeper than you'd think. Like, it gets into why we love animals so much,
Okay.
how they impact our lives, and even some surprising cultural trends.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we found some pretty fascinating stuff in there. Like, did you know exotic pets like iguanas and snakes are becoming more and more popular?
Really?
It's true. And then there's this whole debate about pets in apartments. You know, how to find that balance between people who love animals and folks who might be worried about, like, noise or
Yeah,
allergies.
yeah, that's always a tough one.
It is. And get this, the podcast even suggests that pets can teach us some pretty important life lessons.
Hmm, interesting. Okay, I'm intrigued. So where do we start with this deep dive?
Well, I think the hosts, Emma and James, nailed it right out of the gate with that classic question, do you like pets?
Right. It's such a universal icebreaker.
Exactly. Everyone's got an opinion on it, right?
Definitely.
And in this podcast, it sparks this whole conversation about why we're drawn to certain animals.
Okay, makes sense.
Like Emma, she's a total cat person. She's got this tabby named Luna,
Uh,
and she loves those, independent, cuddly cat vibes.
oh, I get it. And James.
James, he's all about dogs, especially his golden retriever, Max.
Classic dog lover.
Exactly. But the cool thing is, even though they have different preferences, they both agree that pets offer something deeper. Something beyond just being cute and fluffy.
Right, right. There's got to be more to it than that.
Totally. And that's what we're going to unpack, like what is it about pets that fulfills this need for connection and purpose?
Yeah, because it's definitely a thing. It's like in a world that's constantly demanding our attention,
Oh, tell me about it.
pets offer this constant source of love and companionship.
And I think that can be especially impactful for kids.
Oh, absolutely.
James actually makes a really strong case for how dogs especially can be incredible teachers.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, he talks about how growing up with Max, his golden retriever, taught his daughter, Emma, a ton about responsibility.
Okay.
Like, it wasn't just about playing fetch, it was about sticking to a feeding schedule, making sure Max got enough exercise.
Right, like actually taking care of another being.
Yeah. And learning to prioritize those needs.
That makes sense.
And that daily routine, even something as simple as walking the dog every day,
Yeah,
it can teach valuable life lessons about commitment and empathy.
it's true. Those little things add up.
And it's not just chores, right? I think pets can also help kids develop, like, emotional intelligence.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Think about the unconditional love a dog offers, or how a cat, like, forces you to pay attention to their subtle cues.
Totally. And those little interactions, they help kids understand different forms of communication, learn to respond to another being's, like, emotional state.
It's like a crash course in empathy, really.
Exactly.
And you know what? Those benefits, they totally extend beyond childhood, too.
Oh, for sure.
Studies have shown that interacting with pets can actually reduce stress and even lower blood pressure.
No way. So basically, owning a pet is good for your health.
It's true. It's like a furry little therapist, in a way.
I like that. A furry little therapist. We should put that on a t-shirt. But of course, we got to acknowledge the other side of the coin, right?
Of course.
Like any deep dive worth its salt.
Right.
We can't just focus on the positives.
Got to keep it real.
Exactly. Owning a pet, yeah, it's rewarding, but it's also a big
A
responsibility.
huge responsibility.
Huge. There's the financial commitment, obviously,
Yes.
the time investment, and you got to make sure your lifestyle is actually compatible with a pet's needs.
Yeah, like, not everyone's cut out for, say, a high-energy dog
Right.
or a cat that needs a ton of attention.
Exactly. And that actually brings us to a topic that can get a little contentious.
Which is?
Pets in apartments.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It is. And James, he has a really interesting take on this. He's not just like pro-pet or anti-pet.
Okay.
He's more about finding that balance.
Oh, I like that. A balanced approach.
Yeah. Like, he suggests allowing pets with certain conditions so everyone's needs are met.
Interesting. So, like, a compromise.
Exactly. It's a nuanced view that tries to find that middle ground,
Makes sense.
between those who absolutely adore animals and those who might have concerns about noise or allergies.
It's a tough one for sure. I've seen both sides of it.
Oh, me too. And it's a great example of how even a simple question like, do you like pets,
Yeah,
can lead to a discussion about, like, complex social dynamics.
you really can.
And, it might make you think about where you stand on this whole issue.
Right. Are you team pet all the way,
Yeah,
or do you see the need for some compromise?
totally. Food for thought, right?
Definitely. So are we moving on to cultural trends now? You mentioned some interesting stuff earlier.
Oh, yeah. That was a really cool part of the podcast.
Okay, I'm ready. Tell me everything.
Well, we all know that dogs and cats are pretty popular worldwide, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
But this podcast highlighted this growing fascination with more exotic pets.
Oh, really? Like what?
Yeah, like iguanas, snakes, things you wouldn't traditionally think of as pets.
Hmm, that is interesting.
Right. Makes you wonder, what's driving this shift? Is it a desire to stand out? Or maybe it's a way to connect with nature in a different way.
I wonder. There could be so many reasons.
I know. And then there's the question of how these choices impact the welfare of the animals involved.
Yeah, that's a huge consideration.
It is. And I think it shows that we're just scratching the surface of a much bigger conversation about our relationship with animals.
For sure. There's a lot to unpack there.
Totally. But before we go too far down that rabbit hole, I want to bring it back to the IELTS angle for a minute.
Oh, right. Because remember, Emma and James are teaching listeners how to express their thoughts and opinions effectively.
Exactly. They emphasize things like providing clear examples and
Yes.
supporting your arguments with evidence.
So important, especially in something like the IELTS speaking test.
Right. And they do a fantastic job of it themselves.
Oh, they totally do.
Think about how they weave in those personal anecdotes about Luna and Max.
Oh, yeah. Those stories really bring the conversation to life.
Exactly. It not only makes it more engaging for the listener,
For sure.
but it also helps them visualize what they're talking about.
It's like they're painting a picture with their words.
Totally. And it's a good reminder that effective communication isn't just about using fancy vocabulary.
Definitely not. It's about connecting with your audience.
Exactly. Making them feel something and maybe even inspiring them to see things from a new perspective.
And honestly, that's something we can all benefit from, you know?
100%. Whether we're prepping for a test or just trying to have a meaningful conversation.
Absolutely. So as we move into the next part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want you to keep those communication tips in mind
Good idea.
because we'll be exploring even more fascinating insights about the human-animal bond.
Awesome. I can't wait.
And I'm eager to hear your thoughts on what we uncover.
I'm ready when you are.
Let's do it.
All right, so we're back, still diving deep into the world of pets. Who knew an IELTS podcast could be so insightful?
Seriously, it's like learning can come from the most unexpected places.
Right. And speaking of unexpected,
Yeah.
one thing that really stood out to me in this episode was how Emma and James, the hosts, explored those differences between cat people and dog people.
Oh, yeah. That's always a fun one.
It is. Emma with her tabby, Luna.
Yeah.
She totally embodies that cat lover vibe.
Independent.
Yes.
Yeah,
Appreciates those quiet moments of affection, a little bit quirky.
totally. And then there's James.
Oh, James. He's all about Max, his golden retriever, the
Yeah.
epitome of loyalty and enthusiasm.
The classic dog person.
Exactly. But what's cool is beyond those surface level stereotypes, they touch on something really important.
Okay, what's that?
It's those universal reasons why we bring animals into our lives in the first place.
Right, because it's not just about having a furry friend to cuddle with.
It's not. It goes way deeper than that.
It's about that connection, that emotional support.
Yes, exactly. And I think, in today's world, it's easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle.
Oh, absolutely. Nonstop.
And pets, they offer this amazing sense of routine and purpose.
They do. It's like whether you're waking up early for a dog walk
Yeah.
or sticking to a cat's feeding schedule, those little rituals,
Yeah.
they bring a sense of calm.
They do. It's almost like they ground us in the present moment,
It's true. In a world that's constantly pulling us in different directions, pets are like this anchor.
Yes. And there's also that feeling of being needed,
Oh, for sure.
Like having a creature depend on you, it can be incredibly fulfilling.
It is. It taps into that instinct to nurture,
Yeah.
to care for another being.
And let's be honest, sometimes it's just pure entertainment.
Oh, absolutely.
Like a cat chasing a laser pointer, a dog's goofy grin when you come home. Those moments are just priceless.
You gotta love those moments.
They remind us not to take life too seriously,
Lighten up a little.
Exactly. But, on a deeper level,
Yeah.
this podcast also raises some thought-provoking questions about,
About what?
about the ethical side of things.
Oh, right. Like what we were talking about earlier with the exotic pets.
Yes. It's one thing to be fascinated by these animals,
Yeah.
but it's another to consider if we're actually equipped to care for them properly.
It's a good point. Like, are we respecting their natural instincts?
Yeah. Are we providing them with the right environment to thrive?
Because sometimes it feels like we might be fulfilling our own desires.
Right. For something unique,
Yeah,
maybe even at the expense of the animal's well-being.
it's a tough question to grapple with.
It is. And it makes you think about our role in the animal kingdom, you know?
Uh-huh.
Like, owning a pet, it's a privilege,
It is.
not a right.
Right.
And it comes with the responsibility to educate ourselves
For sure.
and to make choices that are good for both the animal and for us.
Definitely. And you know what?
Oh, wait.
This is where those IELTS communication tips come in handy again.
Oh, right. Because, like,
Remember how Emma and James structured their responses?
they were so good.
They gave clear reasons for their opinions.
Yeah.
They used specific examples.
The stories about Luna and Max.
Yes.
To really illustrate their points.
It wasn't just like, dogs are great for kids.
Right, exactly.
They explained how dogs can teach responsibility and empathy.
And they backed it up with personal anecdotes.
Exactly. So it's like,
Yeah.
as we continue exploring all this,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to think about how those communication strategies can
Yeah.
apply to your own life, you know?
No, totally. Like, it's not just about IELTS.
It's not. It's about any time you want to share your perspective. Right. Whether you're advocating for something you believe in
Yeah.
or just having a meaningful conversation.
Exactly. Being able to express yourself clearly and persuasively, that's a skill.
It's a superpower.
It is. And who knows, maybe this deep dive will inspire you to, I don't know,
To what?
to brush up on your own language skills
Oh, interesting.
or explore different ways to communicate more effectively.
I like that. But okay, before we get too sidetracked,
Right.
let's dive back into the pet world. We've got one more part of this deep dive to explore.
Okay.
And I have a feeling
Yeah.
it's going to leave you with some thought-provoking questions to ponder.
Ooh, I like the sound of that. Lead the way. Welcome back to the deep dive.
It's amazing,
It
right?
is.
Like, who knew we'd end up learning so much about pets
Oh, yeah.
and ourselves?
From an IELTS podcast.
I know,
Oh.
it's wild. But I think one of the biggest takeaways for me has been those communication tips from Emma and James.
Oh, for sure. They're like,
They really highlighted the power of storytelling, you know?
and how using those specific examples,
Those anecdotes.
yes,
Yeah.
can make your message so much more engaging.
And persuasive.
Exactly.
It's like they're giving us this secret weapon
Yeah.
for everyday conversations.
Yeah. Job interviews, presentations, anything.
It's true.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about, knowing a lot of fancy words.
It's not. It's about using them in a way that connects,
Right. Connects with your audience.
makes them feel something.
Maybe even inspires them to see things a little differently.
Totally. But okay, before we wrap things up,
Yeah.
I wanted to circle back to something you mentioned earlier.
Oh, what's that?
That whole idea of learning coming from unexpected places.
Ah, yes. That's one of my favorite things to talk about.
I can tell.
Because, we often think of learning as this thing that happens in a classroom.
Yeah, textbooks.
Exactly. But the truth is,
Yeah,
it can happen anywhere, anytime.
like with this IELTS podcast.
Right. Who would have thought?
It's meant to help people prep for a language test. But it's also packed with all these insights.
Life lessons.
Exactly.
So it's a reminder to stay curious,
Yeah.
keep an open mind,
Oh, I like that.
and never underestimate the power of a good conversation.
It's true. You never know what you might discover.
Exactly.
So as we come to the end of our deep dive,
Okay.
I wanted to leave you with a question to ponder.
Ooh, I love a good question.
I know you do. Okay, so remember how we were talking about all those different pet preferences?
Yeah, cats, dogs, exotic animals, the whole shebang.
Right. So here's the question. If you could have any pet in the world,
Okay.
regardless of practicality, what would it be and why?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is. And would you go for a loyal dog? An independent cat?
Or maybe something totally out there, like a talking parrot.
A miniature dragon?
Now you're talking.
I know. But whatever your answer,
Yeah?
I want you to really dig into the why behind it.
Yes. Because it's not just about the pet itself.
It's not.
It's about what that choice says about you. Like, what qualities do you value in an animal companion?
Mm-hmm. What do you seek in a relationship?
It's a little window into your personality.
So there you have it, a deep dive into the world of pets.
Who knew it would be so thought-provoking?
I know, right? We went from, do you like pets?
To the meaning of life. Just kidding.
Almost. But seriously, we explored why we love animals
The impact they have on us.
and even picked up some sweet communication tips along the way.
So much good stuff.
We hope this episode got you thinking
Challenge some assumptions.
and maybe even inspired you to see the world a little differently.
Because remember, learning is an adventure. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and never stop diving deep.